Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time off to join this webinar. We will now begin. I am June, the Marketing Manager at Adventus, and for the benefit of those who are unfamiliar with us, I'll be doing a short introduction on Adventus. But before I begin, if you were to hover your mouse to the bottom of the screen, you will see a Q&A button. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, just type your questions there, and we will address them later at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let me just share my slides now. Just to make it full screen as well. Okay, so about Adventus, we're an ICT solutions and services company that provides a wide range of products and services. We have more than 1,000 contractual customers, and we cater to a lot of different requirements that our customers may have. We have close to 400 employees, and we are serving our customers globally on a 24/7 basis. We have offices around the world to provide our customers with on-site IT support, and we are namely in these 14 countries and these 22 cities. Okay. These are our awards and certifications. Adventus is very big on service excellence. That is why we ensure that we are awarded the Singapore Quality Class Star for service excellence. We have been named the best IT services provider by Singapore Business Review for 7 years in a row, all the way from 2018 to 2024. And to ensure that what we are doing is of world-class standards, we have all these different ISO certifications. Lastly, at Adventus, we believe that happy employees make happy customers. That's why we invest a lot in our employees to make sure that they are working happily and hence serving our customers better. That's why we have all these different HR awards. Okay. These are our technology partners. Basically, we have a very close working relationship with most of the big players in the market. And in today's session, we have partnered with Action1 to give you an insight on the common mistakes that people make with patch management and how to improve your patch management strategy. These are some of our clients. We serve a multitude of customers from SMEs to the big enterprise customers. Just to name some, we have Toyota, where we provide on-site end user support, supporting 800 computer users in Toyota. We manage the firewall for LBBW in Singapore, China, and Korea. We manage the network and server for Shiseido. This covers around 100 servers and enterprise network for 400 users. For KPMG, we do end-user devices patch management for around 3,500 computers. At Adventus today, we have 8 very strong business pillars. I'll go a little more in-depth into each of them. So here's a breakdown for the services included in end-user support services. We provide remote support, on-site support, and also staff augmentation, where we place a headcount into the customer's environment. For cloud and on-premises infra services, we provide services such as infra monitoring, infra maintenance and support, infra upgrade and migration, managed network services, managed backup and disaster recovery services, and new office setup or relocation. When it comes to cybersecurity, we are CSRO licensed to be a service provider for Managed Security Operations Center, which is also known as SOC. So Alan will touch more about our cybersecurity BU later. So some services that we provide here will be endpoint protection for end-user devices and servers, patch management, which is today's topic, multi-factor authentication, firewall, vulnerability management, and managed network access control. For IP and cloud telephony services, we have our own SPO service provider license. So we can provide services for on-premises IP phone systems as well as cloud telephony systems such as Microsoft Teams Direct Routing. Under Telco Solutions and Services, today we are partnering with Singtel in this area. For managed print services, we manage photocopiers and printers, and we have several cloud-based print solutions as well. When we talk about physical security, such as your CCTV and door access, you'll need security service provider license from the Singapore Police Force, and Adventus has one. Yep. So we can provide solutions, consultancy services, and maintenance and support for CCTV and door access systems. In terms of application software services, we currently provide services for ServiceNow and Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM. So overall at Adventus, we have over 300 engineers in an extensive suite of ICT domains and disciplines to cater to various needs of our customers and clients. Each of these divisions comprises of engineers that specialize in the particular field. In today's market, Adventus is strategically and uniquely positioned in the market because we are the only IT vendor that can do all these solutions and services in-house, from your print to CCTV to IP telephony to cloud. We can be your single point of contact in all these areas that we have. So we advocate a cloud-first and secure modern workplace, leveraging on Microsoft 365 suite of products and services. So firstly, people are moving Office Productivity Suite from on-premises to Microsoft 365. They are moving video communication to Microsoft Teams and personal cloud storage to OneDrive. We are moving email servers onto Exchange Online, using Entra ID for identity management, moving file servers to SharePoint, CRM to Dynamics 365, moving print servers to cloud, and we will migrate all the on-premise servers to Azure by spinning up virtual servers and have ZTNA and virtual firewall to protect the servers on Azure. Here are some examples of what we can move onto the virtual servers. So we have a domain controller, ERPs, and HRMS. And if our customers prefer it more secure, we can build Azure virtual desktops as well. So these are kind of like computers in the cloud. Then we have EMS E5 Cloud Security Monitoring. Then we'll deploy all these different security solutions around these two platforms to tighten the security. So things like endpoint protection solution, two-factor authentication, patch management, which is today's topic, secure web gateway, vulnerability management, spam filter, then your backup and storage as well, then endpoint protection for servers, 2FA for servers also, then the backup for server, as well as disaster recovery. Okay, so this covers our cloud-first and secure modern workplace. And now I'll hand over to Sean from Action1. He is the technical product engineer, and he will be going more in-depth into patch management practices and strategies. So once again, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, just type your questions in the Q&A portion below, and we will address them later at the end of the webinar. So Sean, over to you.
Thank you very much, June. Let me share my screen and I'll go over to my PowerPoint presentation here. Okay, should be good there. So the main topic that I'm going to discuss today is around the idea of the top 10 worst patch management practices. We want to identify the things that we're seeing in an overall just common scenario across all of our customers that we support here at Action1, and just things that we can point out, potentially, hopefully fix, either by using Action1 or just through remediating our patching process. Now, before we go into that, I do just want to quickly touch base on a couple statistics around the cybersecurity landscape and where that's currently sitting. All these statistics are currently based around information provided by the PNOM Research Institute. We can see here our first statistic, 62% of organizations were unaware of their vulnerabilities before suffering a data breach. This really highlights a critical gap in awareness and overall readiness. Number two, we can see 60% of breach victims attribute their security incidents to unpatched known vulnerabilities. Despite knowing about these issues, patches were not applied in time. Number three, here we can see 53% of organizations, more than half, rely on manual processes for vulnerability remediation, which really does put you at a disadvantage in terms of responding swiftly to threats as they emerge. If you don't have some form of automation in place, it's going to be very difficult to respond to these in a rapid manner. And then final statistic we can see here, 70% struggle with prioritizing vulnerabilities effectively, which they do find leads to delays in applying critical patches. We can't appropriately prioritize what we should be going after in terms of vulnerabilities. It's going to be tough to fix the ones that truly matter. Whereas we might be able to leave some vulnerabilities waiting just a little bit longer while we patch the ones that are of most importance. Now, let's take a look at some of the practices that we discussed in the initial portion of our presentation here. We can see that we have 4 on our main slide right now. We're going to go through these 1 through 4. 1 being failure to prioritize critical patches. Now, when we talk about critical patches, we're referring to updates that address known vulnerabilities with high potential for exploitation. These vulnerabilities are often identified by software vendors and security researchers who then alert us of their existence. Threat actors are actively scanning the internet for organizations with unpatched vulnerabilities, as they provide a gateway for unauthorized access, data breaches, and just other malicious activities. Threat actors are actively scanning organizations for unpatched vulnerabilities, as they provide a gateway as well for unauthorized access, data breaches, and other malicious activities as well. Number 2, we see this one more often than we would like, and that is just not testing patches before deployment. And we can see in our slide here, of course, that we're going to see a variety of risks that are associated with that. System disruptions. If we apply a patch out to our endpoints or servers without appropriate testing, we could potentially see things such as our systems going down. CrowdStrike's recent issue, of course, is a great example of this, unfortunately. Possible compatibility issues, of course, can also arise. It might not be something that takes the system down entirely, but it could impact the functionality of certain features in your applications. And of course, there could also be the possibility that these patches bring in new vulnerabilities or other system instability pieces as well. So really the biggest thing is making sure that we are testing these in some way, shape, or form before deployment. Now, of course, testing is going to vary from organization to organization. You might have dedicated systems for testing. You might do phased rollout. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. Number 3 is going to be delayed patch management. I think probably the most alarming thing here is that 40% of organizations take more than a month to remediate known vulnerabilities, and 24% require more than 3 months. So we're seeing a very long period of wait there before fixing these vulnerabilities, and a lot of these vulnerabilities can be fixed through patching. And of course, if we delay our patch deployment, we're going to see that we're not fixing these vulnerabilities appropriately. To help combat this, we want to make sure we're conducting regular patch management assessments. And what we mean by patch management assessments is we should have some kind of consistent process that we are performing on a monthly basis, which have our patching methodology documented. And ideally, after each patch deployment, we should be revisiting that and asking ourselves, what can we do better? How can we minimize the time for deployment? And ideally, you're leveraging automation tools for timely deployment. Because if you're doing this manually, you're going to have a very difficult time getting things out in a timely manner. And the quicker you can be, the more you can reduce your potential attack vector and make yourself safer in the long run. Number 4, insufficient communication and coordination. Communication breakdowns, human error, all these things definitely tie into patch management, and of course can lead to missed patches and vulnerabilities. Your organization might be aware of vulnerabilities. You might think you're patching them because you asked a certain team member or part of your team to deploy those patches out. But if there's human error involved or lack of communication, that might be something that's missed. So what we really want to make sure we're doing is establishing some kind of cross-functional collaboration and get better definition around the roles to ensure everybody understands the responsibilities. And ideally, again, this is something that you have documented down, so it's very clear cut who is responsible for what role in the patching process. Of course, we want to use regular meetings and checkpoints as well to discuss progress of our patching and also address challenges and make sure everybody's aligned in terms of what our policies and priorities are. Okay, number 5 here, lack of patch management policy, and somebody already kind of hinted at. Really what a patch management policy is designed to be is more or less a security playbook for you and your organization. They really provide a framework for you and your team in terms of how you want to acquire patches, how you want to test these, how you want to deploy these, so you can make sure things are consistent across your IT infrastructure. By having these clear policies in place, you're able to reduce the ambiguity around your patching. You're able to make sure that patches are applied in a standardized manner rather than being different from month to month. Establishing these policies is really very important for effective patch management. It's going to take your patching game from maybe a B to an A. And by doing this, you're able to then make sure, again, everything is consistent and things aren't being missed and you're adhering to best security practices. Number 6, inadequate patch inventory and tracking. This is one that people don't often always think about, but it is very, very important. And we want to make sure we're maintaining an accurate patch inventory so we know what needs to be applied when and where. If we have inadequate tracking, we're basically leaving gaps in our defenses, so to speak, making it difficult to really make sure that all of our systems are up to date and secure. So we want to have some kind of centralized inventory system or automated scanning tool in place to make sure that we're tracking patches across our environment and across our network. Again, this visibility is crucial for identifying vulnerabilities and maintaining robust security. Effective inventory management isn't just about knowing what you have, it's about ensuring that every asset is properly monitored and protected against potential threats. Number 7, this is a big one, and one that unfortunately sometimes just has to become kind of a necessity depending on your environment, but really ignoring end-of-life software and unsupported systems is certainly a true risk, and it's for very obvious reasons, right? Once these systems become end-of-life, or the software itself is unsupported, they're no longer getting security updates, patches, vendor support, amongst other things, which is going to make them more vulnerable to exploits and attacks. And of course, the consequences of running this end-of-life software can be severe. You can also get compliance violations around this. You're going to increase your exposure to security breaches. You're going to also potentially just perform slower as a company because you're not using the latest software that is out. You're using older versions that are no longer supported. So we want to make sure that we are staying ahead of this and identifying when that software is going to be going end of life and make sure we plan migrations to supported versions or alternative solutions as quickly as we can. Okay, another one, overlooking third-party patches. So when people come to us here at Action, a lot of times one of their main focuses is Windows updates, and they focus very heavily into that. And that's not for a bad reason, right? A lot of vulnerabilities come from missing Windows updates. A lot of focus gets put on those because a lot of potential breaches or issues come from Windows updates. But third-party patching is just as important, and arguably even more so, depending on the type of environment that you're running. So we want to make sure that we are making a point of updating all of our third-party patches as quickly as we can, and not just prioritizing things like Chrome, Java, Firefox, Slack, Teams, things like that, the ones that we use on an everyday basis. You want to make sure that we're patching, again, everything in our environment. It only takes one vulnerability for a threat actor to get in, but to make sure that we're using patch management tools for thorough coverage, again, to make sure we're targeting every third-party application in our environment. Okay, 9, not monitoring for patch compliance and effectiveness. So deploying patches isn't necessarily enough. You want to make sure that they're actually effective. Monitoring patch compliance using vulnerability scanning, penetration testing, monitoring tools, all these things are going to help provide visibility into your security posture and make sure that your patches are effective. Regular assessment, of course, and updates and patch management policies ensure that you have good ongoing compliance that evolves and kind of meets your security requirements as things continue forward. And then finally, 10, this is probably the biggest one that we want to avoid is, of course, manual patching. If we don't have some way to automate this process, you're going to basically run into all these main reasons you see on the slide here. Of course, it's error prone. When you're doing things manually, you're going to miss things. Certain endpoints aren't going to get patched. It's time consuming. When you're going from system to system directly, you're going to spend more time than if you have an automated solution to help with that deployment process. Of course, it's going to lack scalability. You can only be at one place at once. You're going to have limited visibility. Going back to the topic about inventory insight. If you're doing things manually, you're not going to have the inventory visibility that you would if you had some kind of automated solution in place. When you need to meet certain compliance thresholds, or you're trying to audit to get approved for a certain compliance, that's going to be pretty much arguably impossible when you do it manually. Through automated methods, you can then pull that data in a much more streamlined manner. And of course, the most important one being, you're just going to have a delayed response to any threats that come up in your environment. When vulnerabilities are detected, they're going to stay on your systems for longer because you're taking manual methods to correct and fix those. And really, the biggest thing you want to do there is then incorporate some kind of automated patch management solution to streamline all of these things. So that way you have insight into your inventory. You're able to push out updates automatically. You're able to push out third-party patches and Windows updates. And by having this all in one spot, you can make sure that you're prioritizing all those critical patches, testing before deployment, ensuring those get put out correctly, and just making sure you're reducing your threats overall. Okay, and then finally, we're going to go over patch management in just 10 steps, just kind of talk about the general 10 steps that we should be following here. So step 1, we can see we have create a patch management policy. We mentioned not having one is a big weakness, so let's make sure we make one. Let's get these documented. Let's understand what team members are in charge of what, who's signing off on updates, Who's signing off on what systems are being tested against? When are we doing updates? How often are we doing them? These are all things that we would have documented in our patch management policy. 2, an inventory of IT assets. Again, we want to know what we have in our environment. If we are only tracking 99% of our systems, that means we have 1% out there that we have no idea what's going on. We're not aware of any patches that need to be deployed. 3, risk level prioritization. There's a few different ways to think about this, right? You could say, okay, I want to do this based off of the vulnerability itself, what its CVSS score is. I want to base it off of if it's been used before in the past by threat actors. But you can also take the consideration of, the value of the system itself, right? You're probably going to patch your servers in a more timely manner than your workstations, just to the impact that they're going to have on the organization. So you want to weigh these things out. 4, we want to be monitoring for updates in some way. Ideally, this is being done through an automated way, as we can see in step 5. Automation is going to help us with all of these steps, as a matter of fact. So make sure we have some kind of automated patch management process to help with every single one of these. Number 6 and 7, I always say they're a little interchangeable. Patch exceptions, you might be aware of these before you go in and push out new updates. You might know you need to stay in a certain Java version, or you can't upgrade a particular piece of software due to just compatibility issues. That happens. It's not ideal, but you have to work with what you have. But also step 7 of testing might provide insight into patch exceptions. You might find that certain new patches break things, so you might need to backpedal a little bit and apply those exceptions as needed. And then number 8, we want to make sure we're creating backups. As always, anytime you undergo a major change in your environment, such as applying patches, we want to make sure that we are creating these backups efficiently. We want to make sure we're testing them as well. If we don't test them, we don't really have backups because we don't know if they work or not. Then we want to, number 9, apply patches, get those out as quickly as we can. And then once we apply them out to our systems, we then want to document the results. Documenting successes is great, but I would argue documenting the failures is even more important, because that means the next time you go in and inspect and do a patch run, you know what things to look out for moving forward. Okay, let's dive into a quick demo of Action1. That'll be just for 5 minutes, and we'll pass it over to the Adventus team. Now let me switch my screen share one more time here. Okay, we should be able to see my demo environment. Let's make sure Zoom is updating. June, can you just validate, is my screen switched over? Oh, there it is.
Yes.
I was not seeing it on my screen share immediately. Okay, so here we are at the Action1 console. Our main goal is to make patching a much easier process for you as an admin. We can see here I already have some systems in my environment. Just for general information, Action1 is an agent-based system, so you would need to install the Action1 agent onto your environment. Once you do that, you're going to see those systems populate here. We're going to give you a very quick insight into missing updates, as well as vulnerabilities that exist in your environment. So I can click a system here. I can very quickly see what updates are missing from a Windows update and third-party standpoint as well. I go down their system, I can see some other examples of that, where we're pulling in, again, a bunch of different third-party patches that are applicable for these systems. We don't need to do any kind of scanning. We're just going to automatically bring that information in. So when you view these systems, you can just select these updates and say deploy. And I can do this on a one-off basis if I want. I may have to accept some ULIS for these one-time deployments, but that's generally speaking the only time you'll have to do this. And I can pretty much just click next a few times and do a full-scale deployment just like that for this particular system. Now, when we take a look at these updates, so of course, we don't want to have to go system by system by system, even though this would be quicker than going into a system manually. We instead want to think about how can we automate this process. And that's really where Action1 steps in. So what we would do is we would first want to create some kind of groupings. So we can create groups in Action1 for just general targeting of a large number of endpoints. And then we would go into our automation section. And from here, we can create an update automation by saying deploy update right here. And then more or less just choose how we want Action1 to handle and process our patching needs. So if I wanted to tell Action1, I could theoretically just push out all updates. I could say do all Windows updates, third-party updates, driver updates, security updates, all those things we could target in one big soup. Or if I prefer, I can do filters. So I can add in a source such as Windows mandatory updates. And I can make a point then of excluding, say, things like drivers, or I could come back in and I could add in third-party applications to this automation line. Or I could, make it a point of ignoring additional types of updates, such as feature updates or upgrades. Or I could do another exclusion where I say, hey, Action1, I do not want to install Java, as an example. The idea here is that we are creating a filter that tells Action1 what we want to push out from an update standpoint, and then we're going to automate this process against a selection of systems. Now, I can configure some other options here. I can do automatic approval. So that way, if Action1 sees these updates are applicable to this filter, it'll automatically approve and push those out. You can do delay windows. We want to minimize how much time we're delaying for, but I understand in some circumstances it is the goal. So it's fine to do so. If you prefer, you can do manual approval updates as well. For those of you looking to do server patching with a tool like Action1, this is the way you want to do it most likely, is performing manual update approval processes. So you can still set a filter. This acts as kind of a general guideline, but by having this flag set right here for manual approval of updates, we would then go into update approval and manually approve and decline the patches we want to push through, rather than have that process be automatic. We can then control automatic reboots. We can send the end user a custom reboot prompt and give them a set time period until the reboot will begin. They can choose to snooze this prompt. So if you say set it for 3 days, they can say, hey, Action1, remind me in 8 hours. But at the end of this 3-day timeout period, Action1 will perform the desired reboot process. And just so you know, you can brand this as well. You can also deactivate updates in Windows settings, so make sure Action1's can control the process. But in general, then we would go through and Action1 would ask us what groups we want to target. So I can target, 10 systems at once, 100, 1,000, however many you want. You can basically set for one automation. Like so, I can maybe have a phased approach for patching group A here. And then I could put this on a regular schedule. I could say do this every Monday and Friday, do these update requests, or I could run this maybe monthly. So I could say run this on the second Tuesday of every month to correlate with patch Tuesday. And then finally, we have an automation completion deadline window where the concept and idea there is if a system is not reachable, when we schedule this run to initialize, Action1 will keep that request alive for up to 7 days, where essentially we are going to basically wait for that endpoint to come online. And when it does, we're then going to push out the update requests, minimizing those missed update runs where patches are not pushed through successfully. And then we would just want to create additional automations. We could have things for Windows updates, or we could have, things for servers, or different patch policy that we want to push out. We can kind of cater towards all of those. And then just to kind of tie it all together, we do offer vulnerability scanning, so you can identify what vulnerabilities exist in your environments, and then you can apply patches to remediate those. It's all built into Action1. I can very easily select a vulnerability, say start remediation, and push out the correct update to fix that. And of course, you can see all that very easily at a high level from our dashboard, where you can set different SLAs and just get an idea of how many vulnerabilities and missing updates that you have. That being said, that is a good high-level overview of the Action1 console. I believe we're going to pass over to June and Alan to proceed forward with their presentation.
Okay. So Alan will share.
Hi everyone. Thank you for joining Adventus on this webinar. So we are concerned of the patch management security posture for all our customers that is joining today. That's why we want to highlight the importance of patch management. A bit slow. Okay, so I think Sean have gave enough of how Action1 is a good solution. Personally, we have tested a few solutions also. Action1 are one of the fastest in terms of deployment. So that's why we go ahead to do this webinar with Action1 to let everybody know how good is Action1. And today we will jump straight to case study why Action1 or maybe any patch management is really important is because of the vulnerability that is appearing in the market. You may not know, Microsoft Outlook have RC. What is RC? Remote code execution, meaning to say that you can receive an email and cause your PC to be compromised. So they can actually use your account to authenticate with the Active Directory if you have an Active Directory on premise. So last year, there's 9.8, one of the highest score that require immediate attention to it if you are not updated to the patch. Then this year it came out again. It's the same RCE approach to gain access to your network in your office. So these are critical vulnerability that should be patched. Yep. So hacker has just to send an email to user who uses Microsoft Outlook that is unpatched. Once you receive the email, the hacker user don't even need to open the email, read the email. The account has been compromised. Yep. So this is how important it is to update your patches. Okay. The other one is I think Sean have highlighted a lot of software are being obsolete, so you may not know. So good example is Windows 11. You have to update to 23H2 by this October, or else if you're still on the older version, 22H2 or 21H2, you will not receive any updates after October. So this is a version upgrade. So you have to upgrade from 21, 22 to 23H2. Okay. So what this means is if you don't receive any update, most likely the previous case study that I shared, case study 1, you will not receive the update for your Outlook. If you are using Outlook 2016, Outlook 2019 that are based on Windows update system, you will not receive any updates from there. You have to do a manual update. The bad thing of manual update is really depend on user. Plus, nowadays there's hybrid working environment. It make it even worse. Your IT department cannot get hold of everyone if let's say there's a 0-day vulnerability to be updated. So it really depends on user. I believe most of the IT department will not want to leave this to the user to manage because they will, the update will be prolonged until never ending. Okay. So ensuring our devices are up to date is a critical objective to organizations safety. So that's how will IT teams ensure that all devices are kept safe and current. So with Action1, whether you are in office or you're at home, working from home, it's through the internet. So Action1 have done all the checks of the patches. Is it safe to be deployed before they put it out into Action1? So this will prevent issues like CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike issues is most likely there isn't a test to check whether the Windows device will be affected after updating. Yep. So these are being done. What Adventus will do is we also will help you monitor if let's say your user has been not updating, and we can set policy to force them to update. So if the user are not restarting and there's a 0-day vulnerability, we'll inform you to let the user know that they should restart by today or tomorrow for immediate action. So these are patch management services. So this will be automated patch sent to the device. Okay, instead of manual. So once you do manual, it's very hard for you to monitor and very hard for you to have a timeline to have all the device up to date. So automation is better, but rest assured, what we also will do is, let's say there is a 0-day vulnerability, Adventus will actually do a proactive check. Okay. So we'll do automatically deployment to the device and update for you. In case there's really some of the patches not really available at the moment and there's some alternative way to reduce your risk, Adventus will do the steps to help you to patch it before the official patch is out. Okay, so if there's error or failure, we'll do the necessary check for you also. So Action1 have more than 100 application, third-party application. That is important. I'm not sure whether do you know Google have 0-day vulnerabilities. The last one is just 2024. So meaning to say that they can actually gain access to your Windows account by surfing a malicious website. So this is how important patches is. Last but not least, what I want to highlight also, next year, Windows 10 is going to be obsolete. Are you prepared for it? So Windows 10s are no longer in service after October 2025. So what you can do is with Action1, we can actually help you to upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11. Okay. Yep. So that's our capability, and also force reboot on a scheduled timing. So we can actually force it, give the user 24 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours, depending on timing you want, so that they have time to postpone in case there's something urgent. But once it reaches the 24 hours, you can only restart within 1 minute or 30 minutes. So they have to force a reboot after the timeline is up. Okay. Deployment is very straightforward. It's agent-based, so it's very fast. And based on our experience, upon installing the agent to the device, within minutes, we can see the device online in Action1, and all the software inventory is already being scanned and uploaded to Action1 portal. So you can actually quite immediate on the same day, you can have a patch management schedule deployed to all the device. Okay, so you can also configure of alerts to send to you, and Adventus will help you to manage to ensure that your device are up to date. So that's what we know saying about proactive. So we religiously monitor or field patches and update. Okay. There will be monthly reports sent to you from our SDMs or to update you what is the status of your device. Okay. Yep. So that you can actually do it on monthly fee instead of yearly subscription with us. So that's all for me. Now it's quiz time. So June, hand over to you.
Okay, let me just share. So now is quiz time. This works similar to, I think if you guys are familiar with games like Kahoot and things like that. So if you answer the fastest and the most number of correct answers, you will rank first. So let me just, you guys can see my screen, right? Just to check. Okay, can. So, okay. It's on here. Okay, so just need you guys to scan this QR code or go to menti.com and then fill up this code, this number. I'll try on my end also. Okay, then you should see you are all set. Okay, while you guys scan, the QR code is still here if you need. But just to share, so the top 3 prizes that, I mean, if you come up as top 3, you will get the following prizes. So this is fully sponsored by Action1, courtesy of Action1. So if you are based in Singapore, then you will get $50 for the first prize. Second prize is 30. Third prize is $20. If you are based in Philippines, you get, for the first prize, it's 2,000 pesos. Second prize is 1,003 pesos, and the price is 800 pesos. So it will be Grab vouchers for this incentive here. Okay, just scan the QR code first. See if I can go to the next one first. Anyone else still want to join? Okay, maybe I go back first. If you guys still need the code, it's over here. Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so at this slide here, I'll need you guys to rename yourselves so that yeah, if you come in as the top 3, at least we can identify who you are. So on your phone, you can see, enter your name. So please rename yourselves and then join quiz. So then you'll be a player that's ready. Okay, just 5 more seconds before I start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'll just start the quiz now. Okay, so answer fast to get more points. This is the first question. Can Action1 patch third-party applications? So there are 2 options on your phone. Please choose the answer that you think is correct. Okay, 5 seconds left, 4 seconds. Okay. Okay, so most of you answered correctly. Okay, and I'll move on. Okay, so who's first? Well, who's Puffy? Okay, so Puffy is the fastest, but you'll need to rename yourself though. Or later, identify yourself later. Okay. Yeah, but then there are 5 questions here, so this ranking might change. Move on to the next question. Okay. Same thing, answer fast to get more points. What is the rating of the recent Outlook vulnerability based on CVSS score? So look at your phone for the options.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? In 10 years, I see
What
myself
at?
making
What
partner
is
acquisitions.
Okay. Oh wow, only 13 of you answered correctly. Okay. So let's look at the leaderboard now. Okay. So, wow, the leaderboard has changed drastically as compared to just now. Okay, those who want to join, you can still join here if you haven't already joined. Okay, next question. Third question. Okay. Answer fast to get more points as usual. What represents the greatest risk when delaying the application of security patches? 4 options on your phone, please choose one. Okay. Okay. And let's look at the, oh yeah, wow, 40. Okay, majority of you got it correct. So here's the leaderboard. Oh, didn't change much actually. Okay. Yes. Okay. Next question. This is the second last question already.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Okay, so why is it essential to retire end-of-life software? 8 more seconds to answer. Wow, okay, majority got correct as well. Okay, let's look at the leaderboard now. Will it change much? Oh wow, okay. Okay, now JP is first, followed by Alvin. Okay, and we are on to the last question. So make sure you're all ready for it. Okay, this is the last question. Same thing, same rules apply. Answer fast to get more points. Why is it important to conduct testing before deploying patches? Choose the answer on your phone. Five more seconds. Okay, let's
Where do you see
see the
yourself in
leaderboard. Okay. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, so JP is first. Okay, congrats to JP. For the second and third, see if it shows. Oh, it doesn't show. Okay, for the rest of you, second and third, I think third is a employee, so we can't give to the employee, but then I'll reach out to, I think there's one who is P. Can you guys identify? Okay, wait, let's see again. So for second place will be Wei Hon and the third place is P. So I'll need P to identify yourself. Otherwise, it will go to Alvin. So yeah, you can always chat me or drop me an email. I mean, you guys have my email. So yeah. Okay, so I'll move on to Q&A now. Okay, let me share my screen for Q&A. Okay, so if you have any questions, just type them in the Q&A portion. I do have some questions here right now. Let me share my screen so that I can paste the questions over for you. Okay, Q&A will be here. Okay, so first question, what sort of new vulnerabilities are being detected now in a company or organization?
Maybe I'll take the question first. Sean can actually answer how I earn. Most of our vulnerability nowadays now are third-party application. Majority. Chrome has been a continuous issue for all IT environment. And plus Microsoft Edge is also a Chromium engine. So both are equally important. There's a lot of remote code execution from hackers that can gain access to your PC. Then followed by is Outlook. As what I shared, that's the few I have update in the case scenario. Sean, you want to add anything?
No, that's fairly spot on. I mean, the biggest thing is that the majority are third-party application in nature.
Yeah.
So great job pointing that out, Alan. That is very true. So you want to make sure you are prioritizing those third-party patches as much as you can, because they really are the easiest window into your environment from a vulnerability standpoint.
Okay, next question. Is there any AI or auto feature to monitor patch compliance?
So yes and no. I would say in the current buzzword nature of AI, we don't currently have anything like that. But I mean, of course, we have general logic, reporting, various other features in the console that are going to allow you to monitor for patch compliance pretty easily. Our dashboard is a great way to be able to see that information, where you can really quickly see, what systems are out of date, or you can set SLAs where you can say if a critical update's been out for, say, X number of days, consider it overdue. There's a lot of features in Action1 you can use to help monitor and understand where you are from a compliance standpoint.
Okay, next question. After you have deployed the patch on Action1, can the end user reject the update?
They cannot, no.
No.
The idea behind Action1 is we want to give the admin the ability to push out those patches as needed, because ideally they're being pushed out to, correct a vulnerability that's popped up, and we want to give you the ability as the admin to push out those updates as quickly as possible. So the end user is not going to have any say. It's going to be strictly based off what you as the admin decide to have pushed out.
Sorry, just to add on a bit also, the update is anonymous to the user. They don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's silent and in the background.
Yeah, silent in the background.
Okay, next question. Do we need to have dedicated server to install Action1 application? And also, do we need to install Action1 client on all the PC or servers?
Yeah, great question. So you do not need a dedicated server. Action1 is cloud-based in nature. So the idea is that we're taking care of all the heavy server load for you, and you only need to install the Action1 agent then onto all of the clients that you wish to manage. So if you want to manage every system in your environment, you would need to install the client on every system, so that way we can communicate it from the Action1 cloud. And the other benefit of not having to have your own dedicated server to install the application, since we are cloud-based, this means that regardless of those endpoints location, whether they're in the office, at home, traveling overseas, wherever that may be, you're going to be able to interact with that system and ensure it's being patched and maintained.
Then next question. Action1, is it only for patching, or is it also a kind of CMS?
Great question. So Action1 does have some functions that are outside of patching. Very quick list. You can do software deployment, you can do scripts, you can uninstall software, you can remote into endpoints if needed. You're also going to get a variety of reporting functions from Action1 as well. So there are quite a few other features that you can explore within the Action1 console.
Okay, I think this was when Alan was presenting. Not Windows 10 EOL already?
No, next year, October 25. But if you mention about the individual version, yes, the various version EOL at different timeline. but the total EOSL, the whole service level that Microsoft is not going to support Windows 10 anymore, is next year, October.
Okay, then next question. Is it safe to say that CrowdStrike clients or companies that have already deployed Action1 prior to CrowdStrike incident were not affected by the disruption?
Safe to say the question. So with the CrowdStrike disruption, CrowdStrike is going to be an application that manages its own updates to an extent. We don't currently have CrowdStrike in our repository at this point in time. So CrowdStrike would push out the update automatically, and that's very normal for EDR software. They're going to push out their own updates automatically. That's kind of their place to be, so to speak. They want to get those updates out quickly, so that way you're protected. But of course, in instances like this CrowdStrike issue, they should have done much greater testing before deploying out at scale.
Okay, next question. Can Action1 deploy patches to network devices like switches and AP?
Good question. Not at this point in time. Our main focus is going to be workstations and servers. There is a chance in the future we will branch out into switches and APs and routers and the like, but as of right now, it is strictly workstations and servers.
Okay, next question. Any reference for the third-party applications that Action1 can support?
So I can send over a link to the Adventus team and they can share that accordingly. We have a full list. It's around 170 or so applications. And the number is always growing, by the way. We're consistently adding new apps.
Okay, then next question. Is Action1 able to integrate with AD?
I don't think
you gotta take-
so. Yeah, but we can actually integrate with Virtual AD for single sign-on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Enter ID for single sign-on.
Yeah.
We can pull in AD and AD security, or ADOU and AD security group information for grouping functions. And you can use our deployment tool to deploy the agent out through AD as well.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different pieces that kind of tie into AD that you can make use of.
Next question. I believe that Action1 needs the internet to work. How can we work if there's no internet available at the site, or if the internet is not allowed?
Great question. So typically, I mean, I shouldn't say typically, we pretty much always need an internet connection of some sort for the Action1 service to run. Now, I always like to clarify with people, because sometimes we have people say, well, that system doesn't have internet access, when in reality it does. They just have very strict firewall rules around it. So if you can either allow the Action1 firewall ports through, and that'll allow the Action1 console to then work, but you can still restrict access via other firewall rules. Or if you're able to communicate via proxy, you can use Action1 through a proxy as well.
Okay, next question. If my company is using Endpoint Desktop Central now, is it easy to migrate to Action1 Suite?
It is, yes. Action1 is consistently rated if you go on sites like G2 and just various other review sites for different software companies out there. We're consistently rated one of the, if not the easiest platform to use. We really do strive to make Action1 a very approachable tool. I myself was an admin for 10 years prior to be here at Action1, and I've used a lot of tools that are less than great in terms of usability. Action1 is very easy to use.
Let me add on a bit. The migration is quite simple. We did a lot of migration for customer. Yeah.
Okay, then next question. If there is a vulnerability on a known KB patch, what's the workaround?
It's going to vary quite a bit depending on what the issue is, right? And the general hope would be for any kind of vulnerability that pops up for a particular KB patch is that the vendor themselves would issue some kind of, announcement or email blast or something that would basically tell you the correct process to follow in those types of scenarios. It really does come down to the vendor to have proper communication in those types of situations.
Okay, next question. There are many third-party apps around, so how can you ensure that Action1 covers all third-party applications?
Good question. So really no patching tool can truly cover all third-party apps, right? We cover, a very wide base of the most commonly used applications, and we find that in practice, we're covering about 99% of all vulnerabilities that pop up in our customers' environments based off what we currently support. Now, that being said, you can add your own applications to the Action1 repository. We allow you the ability to upload your own software up to 32 gigabytes per package. And that way you can, if you identify something that we don't support, so let's say you identify a vulnerability in Action1, because we have the ability to scan vulnerabilities, and you see that we don't have that in our repository, you could find the latest update file for that, upload it into Action1, and then deploy out to all your endpoints. So we give you the tools to fix it yourself in the event that we don't cover a certain application.
Okay, next question. Who are the major play? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Jun, that's also where Adventus managed service came about. So if let's say some of the applications that is not covered, we can use Action1 to help you mitigate, which is the tool that Sean had mentioned. We can do scripting for you to update.
Okay. Then next question. Who are the major players providing services like Action1?
Alan, do you want to answer that, or I can answer that, or?
Yeah, there are some other major player providing services similar to Action1. There will be like mentioned in the previous Q&A, somebody tried to migrate one of the solution. So not appropriate for me to say here. So yeah, but having tested all these, I find that Action1 have the fastest turnaround time in terms of deployment. The application run if very efficient on your device. Resource consumption also very low. Basically, when the update is being pushed, you don't even know that the update is being updated. Yep. So that's where I think Action1 can succeed in this area.
Next question. Can Action1 be integrated with a ticketing system?
Good question. It depends at what level you're looking to do an integration. You could set up, say, email reports to go into your ticketing system. You could set up alerts. If you want to go deeper, we do provide AP access to pretty much everything in the console. So if you want to tie in a very specific function into your ticketing system, you could do that. We would need a little bit more information though to provide a very in-depth answer to that question.
Okay, next question. Does Action1 or Adventus provide BCPs?
I think Action1 may not be as right as a pure management tools, but BCP, you can actually talk to our sales if let's say you're interested on BCPs. We do provide BCP services.
Okay, next question. Does Action1 include other OSs like Linux?
Good question. So we do currently support Windows at this point in time, Windows servers and workstations. We are adding Mac OS and Linux by the end of the year.
Okay, next question. Understand that Action1 is free for 100 users, but if a company has several separate entities, how does it work?
I can answer that. So you can create multiple organization in Action1. But the 100 is still 100 per organization. So meaning to say the 100 will share across different entities. Then you can grant access to different administrators to the different organization.
Okay. Then next question. Does Action1 support mobile phones such as iOS and Android?
We do not currently support iOS or Android, but we may add that in the future.
Okay, then next question. How different is Action1 versus WSUS, as both seem to have a common role?
Great question. So WSUS and Action1, we have many people come to us using WSUS, and they're looking to get away from that platform. Common reasons we hear, and this is just basically what customers will mention. WSUS they find is going to be slow. It's going to potentially be prone to error. Action1 is usually much more reliable in terms of usage. One of the biggest ones is that Action1 is a cloud-based tool, whereas WSUS is not. So if you want to target systems that are not on premise, you're going to have to make sure that end user is connected to a VPN, and if they're not, you're not going to be able to patch those systems. Action1 also patches third-party applications, which we've mentioned a few times during today's session, are really one of the biggest causes of vulnerabilities. So by using only WSUS, you're missing out on patching all of your third-party applications, which Action1 can. Now, Action1 also does include other functions as well. You can do application deployment. We can uninstall software. We can do vulnerability detection. You can run scripts. You can remote into computers. We're just going to overall offer much more features in a much more flexible and easy to use manner.
Okay, then next question. As you mentioned, Action1 is cloud. Does downloading the patch affect the company's internet?
Great question. So you will need to download the packages to your systems. This is true. One thing Action1 does try to make use of whenever possible is peer-to-peer file sharing across your local network segments. So let's say you have a network segment that has 100 endpoints on it. If you use another tool outside of Action1 that does not support peer-to-peer functions, you're going to basically have to download that patch 100 times, once per individual system. What Action1 does is we download the update once and then share it out locally over your LAN, so we can greatly minimize how much internet traffic is being used by the patching process.
Okay, next question. Can Action1 manage software installation or uninstallation?
We can, yes. You can push out any software you want and uninstall any software you want through Action1.
So that means we can do software management for endpoint, right? It's kind of related to this question also.
You can install, you can't necessarily block software per se. You theoretically could, I suppose, through scripting, but in general, you can install and uninstall, but not block the action from occurring.
Yeah. If want to, this is endpoint, this is more towards endpoint security control or application control. You will need MDM tools to do this. I think Action1 is more to a patch management prioritization.
Okay, I think, does anyone have any further questions? So there's one question with regards to a specific third-party application. So as mentioned, we will address that separately. Okay, I think we don't have any further questions. If that's the case, right? I actually have a QR code here for you guys to scan. So this actually leads to a feedback form. So for us at Adventus, we co-host webinars with our partners every month. So having your feedback will be very helpful, and we greatly appreciate it because it will help us a lot. Okay, we have one more question. So I'll go back to the Q&A part first. So the first 100 endpoints are always free. Are we able to access all the platforms or only certain modules?
All the features are included in that.
It's
You can
full
access
feature.
all the functions in the tool.
And looks like that's all the questions for now. Okay, so I'll sum up this webinar. I would like to thank the speakers, Ellen from Adventus and Sean from Action1, and also thank every one of you for joining us today. So after this webinar, your account managers will actually touch base with you. So if you have any further questions or any further requirements, you can always reach out to them. Or you guys have my email. You can always email me as well if you have any further questions. Okay, so that's all for now. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.